Madison.
Hi, Courtney. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. How about yourself?
I'm good. I'm just excited to film this webinar.
Yeah, who are we talking to today?
So, you're going to be speaking to Dr. Rick Bribiescas. Rick is the president-elect of the Human Biology Association. He is a professor of anthropology, ecology, and evolutionary biology at Yale University, where he studies the endocrinology of humans and comparative life histories, reproduction, aging, and also metabolism.
So, as HBA president, you hold a very influential role. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at the HBA?
Sure, thanks. And I really appreciate you doing this. I think this is a really good service for the association. Um, I'm a professor at Yale, been at Yale for 25 years now. I'm a human evolutionary biologist, study mainly human reproduction, growth, and aging through a evolutionary and life history lens. Work a lot with hormones. It's where I do sort of my research mischief. Uh, Done most of my field work with the Ache in Paraguay, currently working with the Shuar Life History Project in Ecuador, and a number of other projects. Um, in terms of my role in the HBA, it really is a team effort. The term, the title president is in many ways just, a formality, if you will. The executive committee really does work collaboratively to determine sort of the strategic vision of the association, where we're going, where we've been, and in general, our primary goal is to how do we best serve the members in terms of advancing their research and their careers. And students play a major role in this, primarily because they make the bulk of our membership. And it is our responsibility to make sure that the student membership is able to leverage the resources that we have, both in terms of networking, um, uh, sort of cross-fertilization of science, and just getting to know, who's doing what. So, in many ways, my role as president is to sort of facilitate that. I think it's more as a facilitator, more so than all powerful leader, if you will.
Well, thank you for clarifying what your role is. So now a little bit about the conference. So for those attending the HBA conference for the first time, what are some general things that they can expect? And are there any particular sessions, events, or other traditions that make this conference especially unique?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for this particular year, in 2025, it's a special year because it's the 50th anniversary of the HBA. So we're having a number of special sessions. I mean, all the sessions are great, so I can't really pick out a specific one to say this one's better than the other. They're all awesome and they're all going to be super interesting. But if I could, I mean, I would maybe highlight what we're calling sort of the over horizon talks, because one of the discussions we had in planning the 2025 meetings had to do with taking a look back, in terms of, what has the association done, where we've been. But I think it's, we all agreed, the executive committee, that it was equally important just to look at where we're headed. And when I say over the horizon, it's sort of not necessarily like new techniques or new field sites. I mean, those are all very important, but really kind of stretching in terms of, where things will be in 5, 10, 20, 30 years, right? Um, so for example, the talk that I'm giving has to do with sort of the evolution of the laboratory, right? Um, right now, we maintain an endocrinology laboratory where we do, enzyme assays and radioimmunoassays and other things. But I see it well within the next few years where everything we do in our lab is going to be done on something like this. I've seen it in my lifetime, right? But it doesn't mean that, laboratory research or quantitative research is not going to be relevant anymore. What I think it means is that um, interpreting that data, since it's going to come at an incredible flow, and we're just going to be inundated with data. How do we contextualize that in terms of what it means, in terms of physiological significance, in terms of significance for evolutionary biology? Um, so yeah, so for the 2025 meetings, I think those are going to be the most important things. Now, for in terms of what students or people might expect, I think if it's your first time in a meeting, it's going to be a little overwhelming because there are a lot of people, there are sessions going on all over the place, and you feel like you got to run here, you got to run there, you don't want to miss anything. Um, but I think the most important thing is to pace yourself. Don't feel like you have to go to every single talk. Sort of, I would say, write out a sort of a priority list in terms of talks that you want to go to because you're super interested in this particular person and this particular topic. Um, and feel free to sort of shop around, right? You may sort of say, well, I'm kind of interested in this talk, and but I'm not so sure. And I think it's totally fine to sort of linger at the back and wait, maybe 5 minutes into the talk and say, well, this isn't something that is, really what I'm looking for. And it's totally fine to leave and go someplace else. Um, and I think it's also equally important to understand that for people to feel free to just introduce themselves. It can be very intimidating that if you really want to sort of know this faculty member or something, um, that's what the conference is for, to go up to somebody and say, hello, I'm Rick, big fan of your research. If you've got 5 minutes, I'd love to chat to you about whatever. So don't feel intimidated to do that. So I think those are the two main things. Expect to be a little bit overwhelmed. That's okay. And feel free to shop around. And please feel free to just walk up to people, cold and introduce yourself.
That's all amazing advice. And I'm curious, what is some advice you would have for students who are looking to make the most of the conference in terms of networking or even career opportunities?
Yeah, great question. I would say, again, just feel free to introduce yourself if you run across somebody. It may be a good idea to kind of lay the groundwork for a meeting so you have somebody's full attention, right? So let's say you want to meet some professor or a faculty member about a potential postdoc or what's going on in their department. Shoot them an email and say, number one, are you going to be at the conference? If so, can I sit down with you for 15 minutes, buy you a coffee and chat with you about, whatever opportunity you're interested in. So maybe doing some initial legwork or some initial prep will save some time in terms of chasing people down and saying, oh, we're so and so, we're so and so. And that actually, I think it's something I learned the hard way, chasing people down for years and realizing, well, why don't I just email them first? And so I have their full attention. So I think that would be the best thing to do.
That's a great point. Always coming in prepared, checking the program, maybe emailing people in advance is always a good idea. So, the next question is reflecting on your first HBA conference, what's something you wish you had known beforehand? And are there any tips you'd share now with our first time attendees based on your own experiences?
Oh my goodness. Well, back when the Earth was still cooling and I was at my first conference, I remember I was in a poster session as a first year graduate student. And I won't say who, but there was a faculty member who's very animated, let's just put it that way, and very enthusiastic. And it was asking me very sort of rapid fire questions. Um, and I was a little intimidated. That was my first interaction. Um, but then I came to realize that, that's what I'm there for. People are going to ask me questions about my research. Some of it's going to be supportive, some of it's going to be challenging, but all those things are growth opportunities. So, if you engage with somebody who's very supportive, that's great. If somebody engages with your poster or your talk and maybe find some areas of opportunity to improve, that's what you're there for too. And that's totally fine. No research is perfect. So, yeah, I would just say, just if you feel overwhelmed, that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly fine. I was completely overwhelmed. I will share this. The same person who kind of, gave me rapid fire questions at my poster did the exact same thing to my advisor at the time, Peter Ellison. So I thought, okay, this is how it's done, right? And I shouldn't take it personally. So yeah, yeah, that's just my general advice.
Well, you are a leader and mentor and definitely a celebrity in the field. So at the conference, can students come up to you and introduce themselves and say hello?
I hope they do. I hope they do. That's what makes the conferences fun. It's you know, there's a reason why we travel from all parts of the country and sometimes all parts of the world to gather, right? It's to engage. So please come up to me, say hello. Um, I'm hoping people do that, and I'm going to do my own outreach and go up to random people I don't know, and hopefully they won't get freaked out, but I will be doing that.